Hello everyone. Good evening to all of you. I hope you all are very good. So today we are going to discuss second part of CNS pathology. Right. Hello Cameron. So, as we have discussed yesterday, the basically non-neoplastic lesions. Today we are going to discuss about the neoplastic lesions plus degenerative disorders of the brain. Right. So, but first, before I start, I will start with the prayer that you all should have a great and grand success in every exams of your life. Stay healthy, safe, and strong in this pandemic. So those who are new here, for them I will advise that follow me at this, my profile at Unacademy, where I will be posting all those, schedules of the lectures. And please watch my older lectures also, because they are older means just 1 month old or 2 months old, right? So they will be definitely they are having so many contents, and definitely examiner is going to ask many questions from there. As I have seen, question had been asked in AIMS exam also, and all India exam also, right? So please go and see all those lectures also, and you will be notified. You will be notified by all the new schedule which I am posting via this. So please follow me at this profile of the Unacademy, right? And if you're joining any course in Unacademy, you can use this code, Dr. Devesh. Then you will be getting discount also, right? So here, this course is currently going on, which is the comprehensive course on pathology, and that is going on. um Right. So you can follow that. This is the image-based discussion. Here I am just discussing the images and certain relevant point, that all the other things I will be discussing in the MCQs when I will be coming with the MCQs. Right. Pranam. Okay. खुश हो निखिल राज. Blessings to you. Right. प्रणाम बोलने वाले आजकल बहुत कम हो गए. Comprehensive course on pathology for NEET PG. Right. And here, if you are joining, this is the link, and you can use this code. You will be getting discount again. So this course is going on. I think I am going to finish inflammation tomorrow. It will be a lengthier course, and I will be covering things very elaborately. At those who are attending, they might be knowing it, right? And you should also try to attend this. And if you are joining, you can use this name as a code. You will be getting discount. And this is the very important information, right? This is Unacademy, and this is Prep Ladder. So this is called iconic subscription. So this is one of the very good thing which you can subscribe, right? So this iconic subscription of the Unacademy and Prep Ladder is a good combination. And if you are subscribing this, you can have all these, all these are the various, plans for 1 year, for 1.5 year, for 2 years, for 3 years. If you are subscribing any of these things, if you are using my name as a code, you will be getting a discount of 10%. So it's a good opportunity where you are having all the good faculties of the Prep Ladder also, right? And you are privileged to attend the good faculties of the Unacademy also. Live lectures you can see here, and you can see recorded lecture there also. So it's a good combination. I will advise you, you can go for this also. If you are preparing for the long term, means 2022 or 2021 also, you can take this, right? So it will be good option for you, right? Fine. So let's start. If you remember what we have discussed yesterday, right? What we have discussed yesterday about the acanthamoeba, right? So I have explained acanthamoeba. You remember, I have discussed about this acanthamoeba or entamoeba, right? Or entamoeba, right? So I have told you there is a macrophage like organism or trophozoites, central prominent nucleoli, and RBC fragments in the cytoplasm, right? Erythrophagocytosis. So for this, what we are going to use? For this, we are going to use which stain? Calcofluor white stain. So which is immunofluorescence. So this is the calcofluor white stain. So this is called calcofluor white stain. So calcofluor white stain is a immunofluorescence stain. So remember, this is the immunofluorescence stain. As you can see, background is looking black in color. Background is looking black in color. In immunofluorescence staining or immunofluorescence microscopy, we always use, dichroic mirror. We use dichroic mirror, right? So that was the AIMS question. That is why I am telling you Dichroic mirror is used in immunofluorescence microscopy. Dichroic means only two color is allowed to pass through. So here also you can see only two color. One is the light blue, right? And another is little dull blue. So there are two colors. They are all variants of the blue, right? So the outer one, light blue halo-like structure, which you are seeing, that is the wall. That is the wall of the acanthamoeba. So this is the acanthamoeba cell wall, and this is the cytoplasm, right? This is the cytoplasm inside. So this is the dichroic. And how we describe this appearance? So chalcofluor white stain is used for visualizing the cell wall of the acanthamoeba, right? And this will be look like a optically greenish white or bluish white. So this will be described as a optically greenish white, optically greenish white, or it can also be seen as a optically bluish. In this picture it is looking as bluish white, right? But in AIMS exam, when this question came, that time they have used word the optically greenish white, right? So chalcofluor white stain. So is it clear to all of you? Chalcofluor white stain is a special stain which can be seen only by immunofluorescence microscopy. By using dichroic mirror, you are going to see the wall of the acanthamoeba. What will be the color of acanthamoeba wall? Optically greenish white, right? Optically greenish or bluish white in appearance, right? Clear? So this is about acanthamoeba. Fine. Now coming to the next picture. This picture, I am showing you there are two sections of the brain. This side, the left side you are seeing is the normal brain, and this side you are seeing the abnormal brain. Right. So what is this abnormal brain? Which degenerative disorder? Yes, very good. So probably it is Alzheimer disease. We can say like that. It is a Alzheimer disease. So what I am showing you here is Alzheimer disease. So in Alzheimer disease, what are the gross finding you will see? What are the gross finding you are going to see in Alzheimer disease brain? So can you see this is the, I will first tell you, this is the gyri, right? And this one is sulci, right? So this is the normal vein, right? Now you can see that gyri sulci, there is no space, right? So they are very closely attached to each other. But what is happening in Alzheimer disease? Alzheimer disease, you can see gyri is atrophic. So there is a atrophy of the gyri, right? So there is a atrophy in the gyri. So because of this atrophy, you can see now the gyri, the sulci is very wide. So this is called widening of sulcus. So because of the atrophy of the gyri, there will be a widening of sulci. So widening of sulci and atrophy of the gyri. So can you tell me, can you tell me what we are seeing here? Anything extra you are seeing here? If you can observe anything extra here, can you notice anything extra here? Anything? Comparing when you are comparing the normal brain from the abnormal brain of the Alzheimer disease? Yes, very good, Shubham. Very nice. Very good observation. So that is what I wanted to look at. See, this is the ventricle. And can you see how is the ventricle? Ventricle is dilated. Yes, this is called dilated ventricle. And I wanted to show you this picture. Right now, in this picture, you can clearly see this is the normal brain, right? And in this is the Alzheimer disease. This is the Alzheimer disease. So what is happening here? Can you see this? The gyri sulci is all normal. Here you can see that gyri sulci is having atrophy and widening. So because of that cortical atrophy, now you can see that ventricle has been dilated. So now you can see that this is also ventricle, but it is not dilated, normal. But here ventricle has been dilated. Why? So in Alzheimer disease, there is a ventricle dilatation. Why? Due to atrophy of the cortical tissue. Due to atrophy of the cortical tissue. So cortical tissue is getting atrophy, right? So because of the cortical atrophy, there is a expansion of the ventricle. So this expansion is because of the vacuum created by cortical atrophy. Remember, this atrophy of the cortical tissue is creating a vacuum, right? And this vacuum is increasing the size of the ventricle. So this type of hydrocephalus is called as hydrocephalus because ventricle is dilated, so CSF will be more. So this is called as hydrocephalus ex vacuo. Hydrocephalus ex vacuo, right? So hydrocephalus ex vacuo is the term used for the Alzheimer disease. So remember, not only the Alzheimer disease, anything where you are going to see any disorder where you are going to see the atrophy of the cortical tissue, you will find hydrocephalus ex vacuo. For example, not only the Alzheimer disease. So this will be seen in Alzheimer disease also, and this will be seen in another cortical atrophy, which is called as Pick's disease. So Pick's disease, Alzheimer disease, both will be having hydrocephalus ex vacuo. That was the question in exam, right? So now you understood. There are three important findings we are seeing in Alzheimer disease on the gross examination, right? On the gross examination, number one, gyri is atrophic. Number two, there is a widening of the sulci. And number three, because of all these cortical atrophy, ventricle has been expanded and they are having more CSF. So hydrocephalus ex vacuo. Hydrocephalus ex vacuo is a sign of cortical atrophy and it can be seen in Pick's disease also. Clear? Now we'll move to the next one. This is the Alzheimer disease microscopy. Can you tell me? Can you tell me what is this in this Alzheimer disease microscopic examination? Anybody? Can you tell me what you are seeing here? Hirano body, neurofibrillary tangle. Okay, even I cannot see anything. But let me explain it because I know it, so I can tell you. So that is the fact I am telling you, right? So if you look at the center, right? If you look at the center, see, whenever examiner is asking question, never forget rule of five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you are seeing in the center, suddenly you are noticing that in the center, can you tell me what is this? Is it having any morphology? Yeah, amyloid. That is the amyloid. So this is the amyloid, and surrounding area you can see they are little bit eosinophilic and they are little amorphous looking appearance. So probably these are the damaged neurites. Probably here you are seeing damaged neurites. So can you tell me what is this? Neuritic plaques. Yeah, neural plaques or neuritic plaques or senile plaques. So what I'm showing you in this picture, this is the neuritic plaques. Neuritic plaques, which is also called as senile plaque. So both are same thing. Neuritic plaque or senile plaque, both are same thing, right? So neuritic plaque, senile plaque, both are same thing. So why we were having difficulty? You remember what I said in the beginning? What I said in the beginning, Gautam, refresh it, I think, and I will also refresh it. Maybe the problem at my side also. Okay, is it audible? Right. So now you can say neuritic plaque or senile plaque is, senile plaque or neuritic plaque, you cannot appreciate what I said in the beginning. Even I cannot appreciate, but I shown you this amyloid, and from amyloid we came to a guess point that if it is a Alzheimer disease, right? We came to a guess that if it is a Alzheimer disease, then it can be a damaged neurites and amyloid. So amyloid is in the center, and damaged neurites are surrounding them. So this is called as senile plaque, right? So how we will confirm that? So we need to confirm that, right? Neurites are the damaged part of the neuron. Neurites are the damaged part of the neurons. So as I have seen it, damaged part, fragmented, small fragments, right? So how we are going to see them? So for seeing them, we have to use, yeah, this is the Bielsko-Vasky stain. Remember, Bielsko-Vasky stain was Nimhan's question also. So it can be a future question in NEET and AIMS exam. So Bielsko-Vasky stain, what is this? It's a silver-based stain. Whenever we are using silver, they will create black color. So now you can see this black color is the damaged neurites, right? So these are the black color which are showing damaged neurites are quite visible, right? So damaged neurites are visible, and you can see the central part of amyloid is also looking black in color. So now you can see that Bielsko-Vasky stain, and we are seeing senile plaque or neuritic plaque. So that is how you will identify senile plaque or neuritic plaque. Clear? Now coming to the next one, can you tell me what is this in Alzheimer disease? Same patient, Alzheimer disease patient only. This is again Alzheimer disease patient only. Can you tell me what we are seeing here in this picture, especially this which I am marking with arrow? Yes, we are seeing a cell, and this is the nucleus. You can see nucleus, and inside this you can see a flame-like radiations in the cytoplasm. So what are these things? These are neurofibrillary tangles. So these are neurofibrillary tangles. Neurofibrillary tangles are, we describe them as a, yeah, these are hyperphosphorylated tau protein. That is also one important MCQ. What are neurofibrillary tangle? These are hyperphosphorylated tau proteins, right? So hyperphosphorylated tau proteins, neurofibrillary tangle, right? So what we are seeing here, neurofibrillary tangles are initially they are intracellular within the neuron, right? So they are within the neuron. So this is the neuron. So intraneuronal, right? So this is the intraneuronal, right? But when there is a severity and there is a neuronal damage, after neuronal damage, they will become extracellular, right? After neuronal damage, they will become extracellular, right? So that was the question in AIMS exam also, right? Initially intracellular. See this, what I'm saying, initially intracellular, and after the neuronal damage, they will become extracellular, right? So that is the feature of the neurofibrillary tangle. So when they will become extracellular, can you see this is the extracellular neurofibrillary tangle, right? So this is the extracellular neurofibrillary tangle. So it is difficult to identify extracellular neurofibrillary tangle. So for them also, we are going to use the same thing, Bielsko-Vasky stain, right? So for this also, we are going to use the same thing. So this is called Bielsko-Vasky stain, right? So Bielsko-Vasky stain is used for identification of senile plaques and neurotic plaque, right? So for both things, we can use the, yeah, sperm-like dark structure, which is seen in Robbins also. It has been given that language they have used, right? Sperm-like dark structure is seen in the Bielsko-Vasky stain. So this is the Bielsko-Vasky stain. We are seeing the neurofibrillary tangle, right? And you can see these are all black color neurofibrillary tangles, right? What is the significance of the neurofibrillary tangle? They correlate to the severity of the dementia. Severity of dementia is correlated by neurofibrillary tangle as well as senile or neurotic plaque. So both will be correlating. Remember, both will be correlating to the severity of the dementia. But when examiner is asking who is the best correlator, so that time your answer will be in favor of neurofibrillary tangle is the best correlator for the severity of dementia, right? So always remember, if examiner is asking severity of dementia is best correlated by, answer should be neurofibrillary tangle, right? Neurofibrillary tangle. Senile plaque is a poor correlator for the severity of the dementia, right? Now coming to the next one. This is again Alzheimer disease. This is again Alzheimer disease. Brain biopsy. Can you tell me what finding we are seeing here? Anybody, can you tell me what is the finding here we are seeing here? I'll make a one representative neuron. Then I will make a nucleus here. Nucleus, yes, yes. Oh, all are here. No, bodies only directly. Okay, no issue. What is happening here? You can see in this cytoplasm. Can you notice this one? I want to bring your attention to this neuron, which I had drawn here. This neuron, which I have drawn here. In this neuron, can you see there is a vacuole which I have drawn here. In this vacuole, there is a basophilic deposits, and these deposits are granular. So these are the granular deposits where in the neuronal vacuole. So what is this called as? Granulo, yeah, very good. Granulovacular degeneration. So that is how question will be asked. So what I'm showing you here, this is called granulovacular degeneration. Granulovacular degeneration is a very important finding in Alzheimer's disease, right? So always remember, Alzheimer disease, granulovacular degeneration is one of the important finding which examiner can ask you in exam. Already they had asked this question, right? What are the histopathological finding? Parth, don't think about if you are not able to see other comment, because this is the new platform, new setting in the Unacademy platform, where those who have subscribed the platform, they can see other members, comments also. So don't worry about that thing. If you're not subscribed member, you cannot see all the members, comment. You will be seeing only restricted. But don't worry, I will be taking up the comment. I'm seeing all the comments. If any doubt is there, I will discussing with all of you. That will be conveyed to all of you. Right. So is it okay? So now you understood that is the point. So great. So this is the Alzheimer disease. Another important finding that is called granulovacular degeneration. Right. Now come to this one. This is again Alzheimer disease. This is again Alzheimer disease. So can you tell me what is this finding? Can you tell me what is this finding? Anybody? Yes, yes. Yeah, very good. So it's a Hirano bodies. Can you notice there is a neuron? Say it is a nucleus. Suppose I am making this neuron. This is the representative neuron I am drawing here, right? And in this you can notice there is a big eosinophilic inclusion. Big eosinophilic inclusion. So this is eosinophilic inclusion which I'm drawing here. So this eosinophilic inclusion is called as Hirano bodies, right? So eosinophilic inclusion which we are seeing here is called as Hirano bodies, right? So what is Hirano bodies made up of? Another important MCQ. Hirano bodies are made up of alpha actin protein. So they are paired alpha actin protein. And remember, Hirano bodies are not very specific, right? They can be seen in the other conditions also. Hirano bodies can be seen in the normal aging also, right? Normal aging also. Actinin is seen in Jabra band of the nemaline rod myopathy. Definite sin. Actinin is seen in Jabra band of the nemaline rod myopathy. That jet band is made up of, right? So clear. So that Alzheimer disease, you can see here we are seeing the eosinophilic inclusion, which is called as. So these are all important points I have told you in the Alzheimer disease. So I will just sum it up. What are the things I have told you in Alzheimer disease? A quick review, right? Alzheimer disease, number one finding we have discussed is the neuritic plaque, senile plaque, correct? Number two, we have discussed about the Bielsko-Vasky stain of the same. Number three, we have seen neurofibrillary tangle, which was initially intracellular and later on they became extracellular, and they are the better correlator for the severity of the dementia. So senile plaque, then we have seen the then neurofibrillary tangle. Then third thing which we are seeing, third microscopic finding which we are seeing is characteristic is granulovacular degeneration, right? Granulovacular degeneration. Fourth, we are seeing is the Hirano bodies, which can be seen and made up of alpha actin protein, right? So now you understood. Zebra band, when time will Zebra band, I will teach you. Don't worry, will be coming again. Zebra band is seen in nemaline rod myopathy. Please don't deviate from here because we have so many things to discuss. Now come to the this specimen of the brain. What we are seeing here, there are two specimen. This is the Parkinson disease, right? There are two specimen. I'm showing you number 1 and B, A and B, and I'm showing you this is the Parkinson's disease. So can you tell me which one is Parkinson's disease and which one is normal? Parkinson's disease and which one is normal? Yeah, so B is Parkinson disease, right? So here we have to remember that B is Parkinson disease and A is normal, right? Why A is normal? Because you can see the dark color pigmentation is sign of in normal amount of dopamine. So why there is a dark color pigmentation? This is all because of the dopaminergic neuron. So this is all because of the dopamine, which is the reason for dark color, right? So that is why this area is also called as substantia nigra. Substantia nigra. Nigra is derived from the word niger. Niger means black color. Niger means black color. So because of the dopamine, they are having black color because of the dopaminergic neurons are abundant in the substantia nigra. But what is happening in Parkinson's disease? Parkinson's disease, they will be having misfolding of the protein. So remember, they will be having misfolding of the which protein? Alpha synuclein, right? So this alpha synuclein will be causing damage of all the dopaminergic neurons. So they will be causing damage of the dopaminergic neurons, right? So damage of the dopaminergic neurons. And because of the damage of the dopaminergic neurons, what you are seeing here, can you see? You are seeing there is a, if you look at this area, you are seeing there is a pallor of the substantia nigra, right? So pallor of the, so this substantia nigra is now looking pale. Pallor of the substantia nigra. And we can easily decipher that pallor of the substantia nigra will be directly proportional to the severity of the Parkinson's disease. Now you understood, pallor of the substantia nigra is directly proportional to the severity of the disorder, because if you find more pallor, it means there is a more damage. Now you understood, if you are finding there is more pallor, it means there is more damage of the dopaminergic neurons, right? It will be discussed. It will be discussed. Brain tumor will be also discussed. Please wait for some time. It will be discussed, right? So severity will be increased in case of the Parkinson disease, right? So when we will take the section from the Parkinson disease, so from that area, when we are taking section, so this is the again Parkinson disease only. When I am taking section from that, pallor area, you can see there is a neuron here. This neuron I am replicating here also, right? So suppose this is the neuron which I had drawn. In this neuron, you can see there is a eosinophilic area. And around this eosinophilic area, you can see there is a beautiful halo around them. That is the characteristic point, right? So what I'm showing you, eosinophilic inclusion with halo around them. So this is the differentiating feature from the Negri body. In Negri body, you will never see halo, right? Always remember, Negri body, you will never see halo. So this halo is very important. Remember, this halo will never be seen in Negri body. When you see eosinophilic inclusion with the halo, it means it's a Parkinson's disease neuron, right? And what is this called as? What is name of this body? So this is a Lewy body. So this is the Lewy bodies. So what is Lewy bodies consists of? What will be present inside them? Inside them, there will be misfolded alpha synuclein only, right? So alpha synuclein is present in, right? So alpha synuclein is present. So Hirano bodies will be eosinophilic. That is also very non-diagnostic. We cannot say anything. They are not having any halo. Where you are seeing halo, there is no halo here, right? So they are having no halo. They are just eosinophilic inclusion inside the cytoplasm. That's all. Here you will be given history, right? So they will never be asking you what is this neuron, identify this neuron. All right, so they will not ask you like this. They will be always asking, there is a patient who is having bradykinesia, having intermittent rigidity, clasp knife rigidity, right? Pill rolling tremor, this is the neural biopsy. Like that, examiner will be giving you a hint. Here they'll never ask you the direct question, right? So now this one is, so now you understood, it's a Parkinson disease where we are seeing, it's a Parkinson disease where we are seeing the eosinophilic inclusion with halo. And when you find eosinophilic inclusion with halo, it means it is a Lewy body which is consisting of misfolded alpha synuclein protein, right? So done. Now we will see the next one. See, this is called knife edge. You can see the name itself is written here. Knife edge appearance. Knife edge. Can you see this is the frontal part? This is the frontal part. You can see this is the knife edge appearance, right? So because of the, so you can see here it is little bit normal, but here there is a so much of cortical tissue atrophy. So this is the Pick's disease. Remember, this is called Pick's disease. So Pick's disease, knife edge gyri. Knife edge gyri is characteristic, right? So Pick's disease, commonly this will be involving the frontal lobe, right? So that is why it is also called as frontotemporal dementia, right? So frontal lobe is commonly affected, so they are part of the frontotemporal dementia syndrome, right? So here frontal lobe is most commonly affected, so you can see the frontal lobe has been atrophic and they are having knife edge appearance because of the severe atrophy, because of the severe atrophy of the brain tissue, right? And when we are going to take the section, what we are going to see, we are going to see the balloon cell. So you can see we are seeing the balloon cell. I have shown you yesterday also with the prion disease, right? So balloon cells, what are these balloon cells? They are consisting of the tau protein, and this tau protein is called as pick bodies. So what is pick body? It is tau protein, and you can see tau protein are brown in color, which has been shown in this diagram, right? So these are the balloon cells and pick bodies, which is seen in Pick's disease, right? So here you can see, just like Alzheimer disease, they are also having tau. Just like Alzheimer disease, they are having gyri atrophy. Just like Alzheimer disease, they will also have hydrocephalus X vacuum. Clear? Right. This is the new picture you are seeing here, not given in the Robbins, right? So can you tell me what is this? This patient was suffering from the motor neuron disease. This patient was suffering from the motor neuron disease, right? Brain was autopsied after the death, and this is the neuron which I'm showing you here corresponding to this. Sorry, this. In this neuron, you can see there are three eosinophilic inclusion here. Can you notice three eosinophilic? Intraneuronal eosinophilic inclusion. Intraneuronal eosinophilic inclusion. What is this? Can you tell me? Intraneuronal eosinophilic inclusions. Right, so intraneuronal eosinophilic inclusion, yes, these are argyrophilic inclusions. And they are called as Bunina bodies. This is called Bunina bodies, right? So these are the Bunina bodies which you will see in case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So this is the case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Right, so amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, intraneuronal argyrophilic eosinophilic inclusions are called as Bunina bodies, right? So this is the amyotrophic sclerosis, where you will see both upper motor neuron lesion and lower motor neuron lesion, right? So both will be present in these patients, and yes, this is because of the SOD superoxide dismutase gene 1 mutation, which is an antioxidant, prevents brain from the free radical damage. So because of SOD1 mutation, we will be seeing this one. Right. So now coming to the brain tumors. So this is the first brain tumor which I'm showing you. A very characteristic feature on CT scan as well as on gross examination. Yes, we can see there is a tumor mass in this gross finding. This tumor mass, if you see very carefully, you can see they are looking, variegated appearance. Variegated in different color. There it is more brown, more darker brown, lighter brown, right? So this variegated appearance is the reason for the name of this tumor as a glioblastoma. That is why it is called as glioblastoma multiforme, which now we don't use. We use just glioblastoma, right? Multiforme is used because of the variegated appearance. So what is this? This is a tumor mass, and because of the hemorrhage, and necrosis, they are looking brown in appearance. So now you can see that because of the hemorrhage and necrosis, these are looking brown in appearance, right? Remember, if tumor is showing hemorrhage and necrosis on the microscopic examination or gross finding, it means that tumor is having poorer prognosis. This is one of the guess point, right? Whenever you are working as a physician or working as a pathologist and you are seeing a gross specimen, seeing the grossly some hemorrhages there and their older hemorrhage brown color, so you can think that this tumor is not going to be a very good tumor. Like that, one idea you will develop. So this is the brown tumor, and now this brown color tumor, you can see they are traveling from here, from the one lobe to the another lobe. So they are crossing the midline. Why? Because they are highly vascular. Why there is a hemorrhage? Because they are having more vascularity. They are having more vascularity, and because of this vascularity only, they will involve the both lobes of the brain, and this is the frontal lobe. So this is the frontal lobe, which is the most common site for glioblastoma. So now you understood these are the important point about the glioblastoma. What are the important point about the glioblastoma? Number one, they are having hemorrhage and necrosis on the gross examination. Why there is a hemorrhage? Because they are highly vascular tumor, right? What will happen? Because of the high vascularity, they will involve the opposite lobe. So bilateral involvement of the frontal lobe is the characteristic feature, and this characteristic feature, when you are going to see on the gross or CT scan, so now you can see they are looking like a butterfly. So that is why it is also called as butterfly glioma. So that is why this is known as butterfly glioma. So butterfly glioma is because of increased vascularity, right? So always remember, if examiner asks you this question, why they are called as butterfly glioma? Because of the increased vascularity only, they are transmitted from the one lobe to the another lobe, right? So now I understood vascularity is higher. Vascularity is higher, that is why hemorrhage, right? So now you can understand these are the important point which we are seeing in the glioblastoma. So butterfly glioma is another name of glioblastoma. Most common site, most common site is the frontal lobe. Vascular, hemorrhagic, necrotic areas are there, and they are also known as butterfly tumor. Now we will take the biopsy from here, and then we will see what we are seeing in this appearance. We can notice that there is a serpentine necrotic area. Can you see this? This is the haphazard serpentine necrotic area. So what I'm showing you here, this is the serpentine necrosis. This is the serpentine necrosis, right? So serpentine necrotic area is there, and because of the serpentine necrotic area, you can notice that tumor cells are arranged around them like this, right? So whenever you find a serpentine necrotic area like this, I'm just recapitulating the same thing, and tumor cells are parallelly arranged along with this. If you are seeing the distant tumor cells, they are having random arrangement. Distant tumor cells are having random arrangement, but here they are having parallel arrangement. So this parallel arrangement is called as palisading. This parallel arrangement is called as palisading. So palisading means parallel arrangement of tumor cells, right? So parallel arrangement of the tumor cell is called as palisading, right? This palisading is also of two types, right? True palisading and pseudo palisading. True and pseudo. So these are the two types of the palisading: true palisading and pseudo palisading. Why it is called as true palisading? Because true palisading is natural, and they are not because of any other things. So it is already present in the tumor mass, right? But in pseudo palisading, it is because of the necrosis. They had been parallel arrangement. So now you can see that because of the necrosis, they had been pushed, and tumor cells are arranged parallel to each other. So what kind of palisading you will see in the glioblastoma? Can you tell me what kind of palisading we are seeing in this glioblastoma? True or pseudo? Yeah. So remember, it is the necrosis which is pushing the tumor cells to the edges, right? So always remember, this is the pseudo palisading. So pseudo palisading is seen in the glioblastoma. Pseudo palisading is seen in the glioblastoma. True palisading you will see in case of schwannoma. True palisading is seen in the case of schwannoma, and in a skin tumor that is called basal cell carcinoma. Right? So schwannoma and basal cell carcinoma you will be having true palisading, right? So schwannoma and basal cell carcinoma you will be seeing true palisading. Clear? So this is the pseudo palisading. So pseudo palisading necrosis. This is called pseudo palisading necrosis in the glioblastoma multiforme. Pseudo palisading necrosis is diagnostic finding of glioblastoma multiforme, right? And one more thing you can notice, there are so many. What are these dilated structure? Can you tell me what are these dilated structure? These are the Can you see these are the lumen with RBC? These are the lumen with RBC. So what are these things? These are all blood vessels, right? So that shows that they are having increased vascularity because of so much of the blood vessel has been, even in this smaller area, you can see there are 4 or 5 blood vessels, right? So increased blood vascularity will be there. So glioblastoma is highly vascular tumor. You remember what I was telling you that time? Glioblastoma is highly vascular tumor. It's a highly vascular tumor, right? And that is why involving both the lobes and giving the butterfly appearance. So that high vascularity you can appreciate on the microscopy. You can correlate these things, right? So vascularity is more, and necrosis is also there, hemorrhage is also there, right? So overall, that is why we can say that it is having poorer prognosis, right? Now coming to the second brain tumor, that is the ependymoma. What is characteristic of ependymoma? Here you will find both true and pseudo rosette. True and pseudo rosette. What is the meaning of rosette? Here I will just explain you briefly. I will tell you. Rosette means there is a central part. This is the central part. Central part. And tumor cells are surrounding them like a flower petal. Tumor cells are surrounding them like a flower petal, right? So these are called rosette. So like us palisading, we have learned same way. Rosettes are also true rosettes and pseudo rosettes. Rosettes are also true rosettes and pseudo rosettes. So what is the difference between true rosette? See, the central part will be empty. Central part, when you are going to see the true rosette, central part will be empty. There will be nothing. Nothing means nothing. But in case of pseudo necrosis, central part will be having blood vessel, tumor mass, or any other structure can be present. So that will be called as pseudo, right? So what are the example you will see in pseudo? You will see example is neuroblastoma, medulloblastoma, right? Medulloblastoma. These pseudo is also called as Homer-Wright pseudo rosettes. So remember what is the name of these pseudo rosettes? These are also called as Homer-Wright pseudo rosettes, right? So these are also known as Homer-Wright pseudo rosettes, right? So now this will be seen in ependymoma also. So ependymoma is another tumor. Ependymoma is another tumor which can be having both of them, right? So that is why I'm writing both places. Ependymoma can have true rosette also, they can have pseudo rosette also. True rosette is also present in another important tumor that is called retinoblastoma. Retinoblastoma, these were the questions in the AIMS exam. Retinoblastoma, name of this true rosette is the Flexner Wintersteiner true rosette. Flexner Wintersteiner true rosette, right? So Flexner Wintersteiner true rosette. So now you can see, just I have given you one idea that how you will understand about the rosettes. Rosettes are two types. As I have said you, rosettes are two types. It can be true. True will be having empty. So central part is empty, true rosette. Central part is having blood vessel, tumor mass, structure. Then it will be called as pseudo rosette, right? Examples are Homer-Wright pseudo rosettes seen in neuroblastoma, medulloblastoma, right? Ependymoma will be also having. No, all are not called as pseudo rosette. Not all are called as Homer-Wright pseudo rosette. Homer-Wright pseudo rosette is restricted for only some neuroblastoma and medulloblastoma. Ependymoma, we will not be calling them as a Homer-Wright, right? Same way, Flexner Wintersteiner rosette is given a peculiar name for retinoblastoma. It will not be used for the ependymoma. Clear? Fine. Now coming to the picture again. So what we are seeing that we are having both true rosette and pseudo rosette. Can you see this? There is a central part containing the fibrillary material. So these are the neuropil. Can you see this? This central part is having neuropil. So that is why this is a pseudo rosette. This is a pseudo rosette. Pseudo rosette. But here you can see this is the another area. Can you see? Here it is totally empty. There is nothing, empty area. So what is this? This is the true rosette. This is the true rosette, right? So both rosettes will be present in the ependymoma. Another important thing about this thing is ependymoma will be arising from the fourth ventricle, and in adult it will be arising from the spinal cord. So that is the important thing which you have to remember when examiner is asking that. In pediatric age group, fourth ventricle, and adult it is the spinal cord, right? This is the another picture of the ependymoma, where you can see the tumor cell. Can you see? This is the central blood vessel. So what you will call this? Central blood vessel, and tumor cells are surrounding them. So what you will call this? Pseudo rosette or true rosette in this picture? In this picture, what do you say that? This is a, yeah, this is the pseudo rosette, because there is a central blood vessel. So this will be a pseudo rosette, right? Pseudo rosette, right? Cytoplasmic processes are seen. So this is the another picture of the ependymoma. Now coming to the another brain tumor. This, can you tell me in this, what is this brain tumor? So much of blood vessels are seen. What is these? That WHO grading I have discussed in the YouTube session, please, because it's an image-based discussion. So I will be focusing only for the images and related to the some of the important thing. When I will be framing questions with MCQs, I will be coming with the WHO classification. Also, I will explain this, right? So now we can see this is the oligodendroglioma. Oligodendroglioma. So this is the oligodendroglioma. So what you are going to see in the oligodendroglioma? What you are going to see in the oligodendroglioma? So you can see these are all tumors, and in this tumor you can, what you can notice here very prominently, there are having so much of the blood vessels, so many blood vessels are there, and you can see these blood vessels are communicating at one place, very faded. Again, either communicating another, they are communicating with each other. So this is called as anastomosing capillaries. Anastomosing capillaries. So anastomosing capillaries are the one important finding of the oligodendroglioma. So they are also vascular tumor, right? So they are also vascular tumor. Anastomosing capillaries will be there, right? Second thing you can notice, number one was anastomosing capillaries. Second important finding in this is again oligodendroglioma only. This is again oligodendroglioma only. But in this oligodendroglioma, you are seeing very high power view, right? In this high power view, you can see tumor cells are like this, and nucleus is there. This is the nucleus, and surrounding area is clear. So this is looking like a fried egg. You remember I have shown you in hairy cell leukemia also how fried egg will be visible. So fried egg. So oligodendroglioma tumor cells will be looking like a, tumor cells are looking like a fried egg. So what are the findings we are seeing? Anastomosing capillaries, then fried egg tumor cell, and then you can see the third finding of the oligodendroglioma. This is also oligodendroglioma. This is also oligodendroglioma. And in this oligodendroglioma, you can see this is the nerve fiber which I wanted to show you, this neuron, right? This is the neuron, and you can see that surrounding the neurons, there are patches of the tumor cells. These are the patches of the tumor cell. This is the neuron. This is one neuron, and you can see these are the tumor cell. These are the tumor cells. So this is called perineuronal, because this is the neuron. So this is called perineuronal satellitosis. You can see this is the neuron and these are the tumor cells. So perineuronal satellitosis. So these are called as perineuronal satellitosis, right? So perineuronal satellitosis is another important finding in the oligodendroglioma. So now you can see that oligodendroglioma, there are three diagnostic key feature. So what are these three diagnostic key feature? Number one is anastomosing capillaries, which we are seeing here, right? Number two is fried egg tumor cell, right? Number three is the perineuronal satellitosis, right? So clear? So fried egg tumor cell, anastomosing capillaries, perineuronal satellitosis, these are the finding of the oligodendroglioma, right? Coming to the next one. This is classic medulloblastoma. This is the classic medulloblastoma. What is classic medulloblastoma? Means what you are going to see in the classic medulloblastoma. Classic medulloblastoma, you can see there are two things. Number one, a small round blue cell tumor. So number one, you can see there are so many small round blue cell. So it is a small round blue cell tumor. So many small round blue cell tumor, right? If you notice very clearly, you can see there are some fibrillary material, right? There are some fibrillary material and tumor cells are surrounding them like this. Can you see this? There are fibrillary material and tumor cells are surrounding them like this. Can you tell me what is this? Just now we have discussed. Yeah, very good. Pseudo-rosettes. So these are Homer Wright pseudo-rosettes. Right? So Homer Wright pseudo-rosettes. So small round blue cell tumor, Homer Wright pseudo-rosette, that will be the feature of classic medulloblastoma. That will be the feature of classic medulloblastoma. Now I will show you, this is the new point added in the neurobins. Desmoplastic or nodular variant, right? Desmoplastic or nodular variant of the medulloblastoma, right? So this is the medulloblastoma, desmoplastic or nodular variant of the medulloblastoma. So what is happening in this medulloblastoma? Can you see? You can see two things in this biopsy. One area is very light color, right? Light color. So this light color is the increased fibrotic areas, right? Or you can see that there will be not fibrotic area. I should say that there will be a neuronal differentiation. I should not say fibrotic area, otherwise you will be getting confusion. This is the pale area. I should say that this is the pale area. This pale area is also showing the neuronal differentiation. Neuronal differentiation, right? And around this differentiation, you can see there is a darker area. Darker area is the tumor cells. Darker area is these darker areas are the tumor cells, right? So because of that, you can see there is a nodule formation. So that is why it is called as nodular variant. And this darker area, you will be seeing the areas of the fibrosis also. So fibrous area has been suppressed by them. So fibrosis is there, which is also called as desmoplastic response. So that is why this is called as desmoplastic or nodular variant. Whenever you find this variant, they will be having mutation of the sonic hedgehog gene. If you remember, yesterday I was telling you sonic hedgehog gene is associated with basal cell cancer, holoprosencephaly, and now we are seeing medulloblastoma, right? So medulloblastoma is associated with sonic hedgehog gene mutation. So whenever medulloblastoma is having sonic hedgehog gene mutation, what will be the finding? Finding will be desmoplastic nodular variant, right? So desmoplastic nodular variant will be seen in the sonic hedgehog gene mutation type of medulloblastoma. This is the another new thing added in neurobins, large cell anaplastic variant, right? Large cell anaplastic variant of medulloblastoma. So this is the large cell anaplastic variant of medulloblastoma. What is characteristic in this? You are seeing cell wrapping. Cell wrapping, what is the meaning of cell wrapping? You will see one tumor cell is wrapping around the another tumor cell like this, right? And this another tumor cell will be mostly necrotic or dead. Necrotic or dead tumor cell. So what I'm saying here, one cell is enclosing, one tumor cell is enclosing another tumor cell, right? Enclosing another tumor cell. So you can see here, if you see very clearly, can you notice this? This is the this is the tumor cell. You can see very eosinophilic cytoplasm. So this is the necrotic tumor cell. This is the necrotic tumor cell. Here also you can see this is the necrotic tumor cell. Can you see that condensed nucleus? And also these are necrotic tumor cells. And now you can notice that around this necrotic tumor cell, there is another tumor cell. There is another tumor cell, and there is another tumor cell. So this is called cell wrapping. Cell wrapping means one tumor cell is enclosing another tumor cell, right? So cell wrapping is seen in the large anaplastic variant of the medulloblastoma. Here also you can see a beautiful picture. Here also you can see there are three tumor cells, 1, 2, 3. So they are enclosing. So this entire thing is called as cell wrapping, right? So this is called as cell wrapping, right? So cell wrapping is seen in large cell anaplastic medulloblastoma. Can you tell me what is the diagnosis for this brain tumor? It's a tough question. See this. This is called myxoid, bluish appearance or purple appearance, myxoid appearance, right? So this myxoid appearance is because of the mucopolysaccharide. Because of the mucopolysaccharide. Yes, Prashant, that is correct. Mucopolysaccharide is having matrix, right? And in this mucopolysaccharide matrix, you can see the tumor cells are floating, right? So we can see that in this, we are seeing the floating tumor cells. Floating tumor cells within the myxoid mucopolysaccharide matrix. So this is the feature of dysembryoplastic neuroepithelial tumor. So this is the feature of dysembryoplastic neuroepithelial tumor. So this is the neuronal tumor of the brain, right? So remember, what is this? This is the neuronal tumor of the brain, right? So now we can see these are all tumor cells. These are all tumor cells. And now you can see these are all myxoid or mucopolysaccharide. So mucopolysaccharide matrix will be there. Tumor cells are floating within them. So this will be the feature of desmoplastic neuroepithelial tumor, which is a neuronal tumor, right? Now coming to this tumor, what is this we are seeing in? Can you notice this? What we are seeing here? There is a meninges, right? So there is a dura mater. You can see here there is a dura mater. So what is this? This is the dura mater. This is the dura mater. Here also you can see the same thing. Here it's a new picture in New Robbins, dura mater. So both are dura mater only. So we are seeing a dura mater based tumor. So whenever examiner is showing you a dura mater and mass is arising from them, so this is the meningioma. Dura mater based tumor in cross finding, dura mater based tumor in gross finding or on radiological examination. That will be the same thing, right? So they are mostly meningiomas. Meningiomas, they arise from the arachnoid cap cell. So that dura mater will be having arachnoid cap cells. So should not be confused with the villi. It is cap cell, right? Not villi. Villi is present in the ventricle and they will be giving you plexus papillomas, right? Not the meningiomas. Right, so this is the arachnoid cap cell. Arachnoid cap cell is another name of the meningothelial cell. So remember, meningothelial cells are called as arachnoid cap cells. So meningioma will be arising from them. When you will take the section from these meningioma, you will find they are having so many, what is this? Concentric laminated appearance. What are these things? These are psammoma bodies. These are the psammoma bodies. So what is psammoma bodies? Psammoma bodies are the dystrophic calcification because these are the damaged tumor cells, right? So these are the dystrophic calcification. So this is the psammoma body. You can see there is a basophilic concentric laminated ring-like structure. So these are the psammoma bodies, right? So meningioma, we are seeing meningioma arising from the dura mater, arising from the arachnoid cap cell of the dura mater or from the meningoepithelial cells of the dura mater, and on biopsy you will be seeing these psammoma bodies, right? Psammoma bodies are numerous will be present in this. And what is psammoma body? These are the dystrophic calcification in the tumor cells, right? Now coming to this tumor, can you tell me what is this tumor? This tumor is taken from the earth cranial nerve. Yeah, so this is the schwannoma. Schwannoma most commonly arise from the inferior vestibular branch. So remember this point also. Inferior vestibular branch. What we are seeing in this schwannoma, we can notice there are two areas which I'm marking. Number one, where this is the number one, right? So number one is highly cellular area. highly cellular area. This highly cellular area is called as Antony A. Right. Now look at this area. Right. This area is having less cellularity. So I'm writing here less cellular, decreased cellularity. So this is called Antony B. Antony B. So Antony A, Antony B is a histological finding in case of the schwannoma, right? So Antony A, Antony B is a histological finding in the schwannoma, right? And when you are going to see this, right, in the Antony A area, you can see there is a parallel arrangement of the tumor cell. So this is called palisading, right? And these collection of the palisaded nuclei is called as Verroque bodies. So Antony A area will be having Verroque bodies also. So Verroque body is a collection of the parallel or palisaded cells. So this is called Verroque body, right? So this entire structure is called as Verroque body. So examiner may be asking you this question, right? It's a true palisading. There is no necrosis. It is not necrotic area. This is the tumor cell only. Decreased cellularity, right? So these are the increased cellularity, less cellularity. More cellularity, Antony A, less cellularity, Antony B. And this is not because of the palisading is true palisading. So here we are seeing the true palisading. Always remember, it's a true palisading. Right? So true palisading. So schwannoma, there are two important things you have to remember in schwannoma. Right? In schwannoma, you have to remember two important things, right? Number one is Antony A, number two is Antony B. And this entire structure which you are seeing here, this entire thing is called as Verroque body, where you are seeing the palisading of the tumor cell, and this is the true palisading, right? Clear? Now, this is the primary CNS lymphoma, which you will see often in the immunocompromised individual, right? It will be seen in immunocompromised individual. Most common site is the frontal lobe of the brain. So most commonly they will be involving frontal lobe of the brain. What is the characteristic of the primary CNS lymphoma on the biopsy examination? If you look at the area, can you see this? What is this? A lumen with RBC, lumen with RBC, right? So there is a blood vessel. Yeah, that is a blood vessel. And you can see all these small tumor cells. These are all tumor cells, and tumor cells are around the blood vessel, around the blood vessel. So primary CNS lymphoma, you will see perivascular lymphoma cells, right? So perivascular tumor cells are there. So that is why this is also called as angiocentric tumor. That is why this is also called as angiocentric tumor. You remember that day we have discussed in leukemia lymphoma, angiocentric tumor is the anaplastic large cell lymphoma. I was showing you there are so many hemorrhages in the lymph node. So angiocentric around the blood vessel when they are growing, that is called as angiocentric tumor. So primary CNS lymphoma is a angiocentric tumor. Right now you can see in this picture it is more clear, right? You can see a blood vessel and tumor cell. So this is the more clearer picture of the angiocentricity of the primary CNS lymphoma, right? Primary CNS lymphoma, right? So here I'll just tell you, CNS lymphoma can be primary also, can be secondary also, right? Because mostly it is associated with Epstein-Barr virus. So this can be from the stomach area or intestine area also. So it can be a secondary from metastasis from the distant site, or it can be the primary. So how to differentiate primary and secondary? So remember, for differentiation, we are going to use a stain called as reticulin stain. Reticulin stain. Reticulin stain. So reticulin stain will be giving you a characteristic appearance, right? So that characteristic appearance which you will see only in the primary, that is called as whooping sign. So remember, whooping sign given in Robbins, whooping sign is present in primary CNS lymphoma and absent in the secondary CNS lymphoma. What is whooping sign? So reticulin stain, reticulin fiber will be stained with the black color. So these are the reticulin fiber. Just I am showing you a schematic diagram. So what I'm showing you here, this is the reticulin fiber. Reticulin fiber. So each reticulin fiber will be having their individual tumor cells. Now you can see that every tumor cell is having their own boundary of the reticulin. So tumor cells are separated from each other by reticulin fiber is called as hooping sign. Individual tumor cells are separated from each other by reticulin fiber is called as hooping sign, seen in primary CNS lymphoma. This will not be seen in secondary. In secondaries, what will be there? There will be reticulin boundary. Definitely, they will also have reticulin boundary. They will also have reticulin boundary, but in this reticulin boundary, you will be seeing cluster of the tumor cell. There will be group of the tumor cells within one boundary. So can you see that in this only one tumor per reticulin boundary, but here in reticulin boundary there are numerous tumor group of tumor cells are present. So that is called as absence of the hooping sign. So now I'm showing you this is the hooping sign on the reticulin stain. So now you can see this is how it will be looking like. What I have drawn you, it will not be looking like this, but yes, you can see there are individual boundaries. You can see individual boundaries are visible. So this you can see there are so many individual boundaries are seen. So these individual boundaries are, see, angiocentric growth of the lymphoid cell is often accompanied by perivascular reticulin deposits in a concentric fashion. This is called as hooping sign, right? So in all of them, you will see there is a tumor cell, there is a tumor cell, there is a tumor cell. So this is called as hooping sign, which is seen in primary CNS lymphoma. So remember, this will be present in primary CNS lymphoma, and this will be absent in the secondaries of the CNS lymphomas, right? So that's all. So the last slide. Thank you so much to all of you. And remember, because the time is coming nearer and nearer, so always remember those who are going to do hard work, they are definitely going to win the race. And these last 2 months, basically last 2 months, why I'm saying, because I'm comparing with the aims, right? So if you are preparing for aims, these 2 months, focus more on revision. Try to revise every day. I will say that try to revise every day. Do not design a single day, because I see that many places they say that one day you keep it for the revision and that day never comes, right? That is the truth. I'm telling you, that day will never come, because you are planning for a huge chunk. But every day if you are reading just 1 hour also, so just calculate, in 30 days it will be 30 hours. And if you are sitting 7 to 8 hours per day, so it is equivalent to 4 days, right? So that is what I am telling you. If you are revising 1.5 to 2 hours per day every morning, you will be seeing drastic change. I'm telling you, you might be thinking you are average, but in the exam time you will see the best performance. That is why I said hard work beats the talents when talent does not work hard, right? And please remember one more important point: do not focus on this so much of study material. Focus on one study material and focus more on revision, because it is very important to revise minimum 3 to 5 times. Revise minimum 3 to 5 times, right? Remember, only the first time reading will be taking time. After that, revision will be very shorter, 3 to 5 times. First time revision, if you're taking 3 months, so second third revision will be within 15 days, it will be done. Fourth revision will be within 5 days. So like that it will be going on, and before exam you can see that within 7 days you can revise all the 19 subjects. So basic mantra is try to revise every day something, so that the pressure in your mind should be lesser in the last moment. Because in the last 1 month, if you're not revising, if you're keeping everything for the last 1 month, because I have seen a strategy maker, what they say that we will start revision from the 15th of the September, right, or 15th of the October. So what will happen in the last 15 days? You will be so puzzled, right? You will be having so much of pressure, and that pressure will spoil your performance. Yeah, I'm planning, Nikhil. I'm planning, and my YouTube, I'm planning that I will be discussing. So thank you so much to all of you. Good night. Tomorrow we will meet again with the some